Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy Wednesday. I'm very excited to be sitting here with Lindsay on her subject, Email Marketing 101 for Financial Advisors. We'll give it a couple minutes for everyone to roll through and get comfortable, but you have us for the next hour, and we are very excited to share all kinds of tips and tricks for you. So be sure to open that Q&A function and drop any burning questions that you have. Awesome. I love to see all these attendees roll in. Very excited. Lindsay, I know you're normally more behind the scenes, and I'm thrilled to have you in front of the camera.
Yes, I am super excited.
Okay, yeah. I think just one more minute, get comfortable, grab your lunch if it's lunchtime, or maybe you're driving between appointments. Maybe you're just in your office, got your headphones on. Wherever you're at, get comfortable and get all your marketing questions ready and top of mind. Okay, I see things slowing down just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and kick off with my intro, and rest assured this is recorded. We'll follow up with an email to after the presentation, along with any of the resources that Lindsay mentions in your inbox. But thank you all so much for joining us. It's Wednesday. It's the first Wednesday of the month. So we're here talking to financial advisors, prospective XYPN members, and just ready and willing to share what we know. This month is marketing 101 for financial advisors. And so this is going to be a really important topic, especially in that first year of business. So absolutely thrilled to have Lindsay here for this month. And we also have another marketing webinar next month, which is 30 top marketing hacks in 30 minutes. So be sure to sign up for that one as well, because this series is all about marketing and how to make sure that you're getting clients walking through the door. And we'll be joined by our marketing system administrator, Katie DeMars, and our director of brand communications, Kelly Mormon. That's next month, March 3rd, first Wednesday of the month. So just keep that in mind for your calendars. But for today, we are doing more of a 101 presentation. We've got Lindsay here, and she has been on the XYPN team for several years. She started her career in the sales department before transitioning over to marketing. So she is the perfect person to host this. She's seen the pipeline from beginning to she's seen all parts of the pipeline. And I think that I will turn it over to you, Lindsay, and introduce yourself, and we'll get to as many questions as we can.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks, Isabel. Hey, everyone. I am coming to you today from snowy Bozeman, Montana, which is where XYPN headquarters is. Like Isabel mentioned, I started XY just over 3 years ago on the sales team. So talking to prospective members of the network, like those of you on the call today. And then last April, I actually transitioned to the marketing team as the email marketing manager. So in that role, I handle the different email communications for both prospective members of the network as well as current members. And there's really so much to learn in the digital marketing landscape. And my goal today is to kind of just go over the basics of email marketing, whether you're looking at starting a firm or implementing email marketing into your existing practice. So we will get started. So we'll start with the basics, of course. What exactly is email marketing? So it's an opportunity for a business to connect with their audience and promote their brand and increase sales. So it's exactly what it sounds like. It's marketing conducted by email, whether that's email, sending to prospective clients or current clients. And there's a lot of different email marketing tactics that you can take, and we'll cover some of those today. But email marketing can be related to selling a product, or in a financial advisory sense, selling your service. It can be used as an opportunity to share firm news and updates, or just using email to tell your brand story and kind of share why you do what you do. So we'll dive into all of that and cover that. So why bother with email marketing? Well, email marketing still remains one of the most effective and direct ways to build relationships between businesses and customers. Despite the rise of social media, email marketing still gets you in front of those prospective clients of yours. Whereas if someone's on social media scrolling through their feed, they might stumble across a brand, but it's not personalized to them. Email marketing allows you to send a personalized communication and show up regularly in someone's inbox. To put this into perspective, I encourage you to think about the different brands that reach out to you via email, who's regularly showing up in your inbox, what messages are they sending to you? And that's a really good way to think about your strategy when it comes to email marketing and what you want that to look like. And then when utilized correctly, email is really the best way to build that relationship and establish trust until it comes time for clients to make the purchase or engage in a financial planning relationship with you. So there are a lot of benefits when it comes to email marketing. So we'll kind of take some time to dive into a few of them. So the top one is nurturing leads until they are ready to buy. Essentially, email marketing allows you to warm up leads so that when it comes time for them to make a purchase or engage in a relationship with you, they're not cold leads. They already know exactly who you are and your background. It's an opportunity to connect and build an ongoing relationship with prospects. So again, it's more personal than say, social media advertisement. You kind of get to cater the content, tell your story, tell more about your firm, share more about your background. It's a consistent opportunity to showcase your expertise and credibility. So holding yourself out as a trustworthy resource. It's a great opportunity to build awareness. Who are you as a brand? Email marketing, kind of takes your brand and puts it right in front of the prospective client's face in their inbox. It keeps your services top of mind because, again, you're regularly showing up somewhere. And then you can also use email marketing to drive traffic to your blog, social media channels, website. We'll dive into this in a little bit, but you can repurpose blog content and use it within an email marketing newsletter and then have readers continue on and go back to your website. So you're kind of creating this never-ending loop of having prospective clients learn all about your firm and who you are. And lastly, you're in control. So you have room for experiments, you have room for creativity. I think we often hear, social media algorithms constantly change. We hear that with Instagram all the time of, how they're determining what posts show up first. Inbox providers don't do that. If you send someone an email in Gmail, it's going to show up in the order in which it was received. Gmail isn't kind of picking through and showing you what they think that you would like. So to get started, you really need an email service provider. And if you're not familiar with them, they're really just a company that offers email marketing software and services for you. Makes it really easy to see the data that you're sending. You might also have heard of these before. The acronym is an ESP. So I dug into our member-only forums just to see what members are using when it comes to email service providers. And this is just a sampling of those that are out there. What's really nice and a big benefit of using one of these service providers is that to the right here, this is actually from HubSpot. They have pre-created templates that you can use. So essentially they're telling you exactly where to put your logo, exactly where to put your photo, where to write your updates. And they typically have templates for, email newsletters, welcoming new subscribers, and even, happy birthday email templates. So it's a really nice place to start if you don't want to recreate the wheel and just kind of use a template and then change it to your brand and your colors and continue on. Okay, so I figured I'd get out of the way first. Email marketing regulations. This is always kind of a big question and it can really sound intimidating, but if you are a legitimate business owner that's using email marketing to send email marketing campaigns, you're likely already complying with the rules. Really, these regulations are in place to prevent spammers from acquiring folks' email address and then spamming them with unsolicited emails. I did just want to cover, you might have heard before CAN spam. That's an act that gives recipients the right to stop a business from emailing them. And then GDPR is another one, and that affects anyone selling to EU citizens. But really, to stay compliant, it's pretty simple. Include a valid address for your business in your email. That can be your current business street address or a post office box. And then always include an opt-out link in your emails for subscribers to, unsubscribe if they no longer want to receive communication from you. If you're using one of those email service providers, generally they'll automatically remove people from the list if they do unsubscribe. But if it is a manual process for you, just honor recipients' request within 10 business days to stay compliant. Since we're talking about regulations and compliance, I also chatted with our XYPN compliance team about different compliance considerations for RIA owners. So one of the first things to mention is that in the RIA compliance space, an advertisement is anything sent to more than one person. And so email marketing does fall within that category. And when I was chatting with the compliance team, they said when the time comes for an audit, regulators are going to be looking at the emails that you're sending and then how you're getting your leads. So to kind of, stay on top of that, they said that you should be maintaining copies of all advertising and marketing content in essentially an improved marketing folder. And how you do that is totally up to you. They said some members will, send an email directly to themselves and then just drag that into a folder after the fact. Totally up to you how you want to structure that, as long as you're just kind of keeping that content. And then, of course, maintaining the list of who you sent your email campaigns to. And then because email marketing is classified as an advertisement, there should always be a disclosure. They included here for me to share a boilerplate disclaimer for you to use. And they have a few other ones available as well. And then if this sounds so scary, don't worry, the XYPN compliance team is here to help should you join the network. They have a lot of different resources to help you so that this stuff isn't as scary. All right, so we will dive into getting started with email marketing, the fun stuff. So starting out, defining your audience is one of the most important things you can do. And if you're wondering why, well, you can't effectively communicate with your audience if you have no idea who you are actually speaking to. So creating an ideal client avatar is something that can help with this process. And if you're not totally familiar with what a client avatar is, you may have also heard them as buyer personas. They're essentially fictional and general representations of your client base and your ideal prospects so that you can really visualize who exactly they are, what their pain points are, their goals, all of it, so that when you're writing any type of copy, you know exactly who you're speaking to and what message to send across to them. And then, once you have those ideal client avatars kind of figured out, that's where segmentation can come into play, where you're sending different messages based on who you're trying to speak with. So an example I always like to use is, say your niche is dentists. It's really easy to just send the same content. I'm working with all dentists. But that's not necessarily the case. You might be working with dentists that are fresh out of school, so they're battling student loan debt. You might be working with dentists that are their own business owners or dentists approaching retirement. Every single one of those segments is going to have a different pain point, a different goal, a different like, dislike, and you can really cater the content that you're sending based on where they are within their own life. And then once you know who you're speaking to and who your audience is, you of course cannot send an email without having a send list of subscribers. So again, this is one of the most important pieces of your marketing plan. So how exactly do you build an email list? There's a few options. So the first one, probably the most common, is creating a simple sign up form. This is a form that folks will fill out when they visit your website. You know, if they like what they see, they're going to instantly look for a way to stay in touch. Think about how many times that you have done this, where you visited a business and you liked what you saw, wanted to stay in the loop on their different news and updates. So that's the easiest way. And you can, install these in a variety of pages, the different sign-up forms. You can have a pop-up that pops up when visitors visit your website. So there's a few different ways to offer that. The next one is create a lead magnet. So if you're not familiar with the lead magnet, it's something you give away for free in exchange for an email address. The really nice thing is a lead magnet can really be anything you want it to be, as long as it's providing value to website visitors. So I put a few examples here. It could be a case study, an ebook, a webinar, a free consultation with you, different white papers, if that's something, a cheat sheet of resources. There's a lot of different avenues that you can take here. And you, of course, will know your audience better than anyone. So you can kind of think, what would they want to see in exchange? And then the last one I have here is share on social channels. So encourage social media followers to follow along with you via email as well. There's always the potential someone could stumble upon your Facebook group or your Twitter or Instagram, if you have that, before your website. In today's digital age, that can happen. So Instagram and Facebook make it really easy, where they have call to action buttons that essentially, prompt people to sign up for your email list. So definitely encourage followers on those avenues to connect with you via email as well. And then I didn't include it on the slide, but of course, this goes without saying, if you're ever at an event in person, obviously not in today's current environment, but in the future, if you're ever an in-person event where you're giving a webinar or connecting with different folks, have a sign-up sheet, just a good old-fashioned sign-up sheet, so people can sign up, and you can add them to your email list when you're back in the office. And then just remember also that no matter what, people sign up because they want to stay informed. So that's really the reason why they want to stay on your list and remain there. So one thing to keep in mind when you are building your email list is whether you want to choose what's called single opt-in versus double opt-in. So single opt-in is when a prospect fills out a sign-up form directly on your website, they hit submit, and they're instantly a subscriber. And double opt-in happens if a prospect fills out a sign-up form on your website, they click submit, and then they get an email confirmation to confirm that they actually want to be subscribed on your list. And then there's a link within that email to actually confirm their subscription. This might have happened with different businesses that you've interacted with before. You might get that email after that says, hey, you're almost there. We just want to verify that you're a human. So which is better? There's no necessarily right or wrong answer here. There's pros and cons to each. It's really up to you and your business and what you think will make most sense. So, just some pros and cons. A single opt-in, of course, the conversion rate will be higher because visitors sign ups, and then they're just automatically opted into your list. So with that, there's an increased risk that there will be lower engagement because folks just might sign up randomly and then decide, hey, I actually don't want to be on this email list. Double opt-in, of course, can decrease your conversion rate because you're adding kind of that roadblock where people sign up, they're getting that additional email that they have to actually click one more link. So there's a roadblock, always the potential they're not going to follow through. But with a double opt-in, you generally have a more engaged list because folks have taken that additional step to verify that, hey, I actually do want to receive these emails and I want to be on this list. So if you're not sure what makes sense for your firm, this is where marketing experiments can come into play, and you can kind of test around and just see what works best. Okay, so must-have emails in your marketing plan. I'm just going to use the next few slides to go over kind of 4 different emails that I think are super beneficial to have. And as we go through this, just remember that you're always sending with purpose, and you want to make sure the content that you're sending is always speaking with the subscribers that are on your email list. So the first one is a welcome email. This might be something that you've also seen before from different brands. So really, this is the first email that a subscriber receives after subscribing to your communications. It verifies that, hey, you're actually subscribed to receive communications and updates from us moving forward. It's a really great way to introduce readers to your firm and your story and your background. And it's also a really nice way to just create a great first impression. As soon as someone signs up, they're getting a welcome email welcoming them on board. As I mentioned, it's a really good way to share your story. How did you get to where you are? Why do you do what you do? What's your background? And you can always include a few sentences in this welcome email about who you are, and then link readers onto the About You on your website so that they can kind of finish reading your story from there. And then this is also a great place to just share with readers how they can connect with you moving forward. How can they stay in touch? What social media channels are you active on? What's your email address? Do you have a calendar link if they want to schedule a call to learn more? And I would also recommend this is a great way to essentially whitelist your email address. So encouraging readers to add your email to their address book. That way in the future, your emails will just kind of come in because that's a known contact. So just a really great way, again, to make that first impression. So the next one is an email newsletter. I'm sure you're familiar with these and you receive them from different brands. So this is just a regular newsletter that you send to subscribers with relevant and valuable information. The key here is that you want to send an email newsletter as often as you can share value. And whether that's a weekly cadence or bi-monthly or monthly cadence, that's totally up to you. Those are kind of what you'll see most often is that weekly, bi-monthly, or monthly. Anything longer than that almost becomes too long. So like a quarterly newsletter, you're only showing up in someone's inbox about 4 times a year. So it's really easy for them to, essentially forget you between sends. It's not that regular consistency. So I wouldn't go any longer than a monthly cadence. And then if you're wondering what to include in an email newsletter, there are so many options here. One of the first ones, relevant news market up. So there's an article you stumble upon that would be really beneficial for readers to read. It would help them with a common financial problem. That's something that you can include. This is also a really great place you can share articles that you've recently been quoted in, or maybe provide expertise in. And it's really simple to be like, we recently shared thoughts on this topic. Click here to continue reading the article. Email newsletter, great place to provide firm news and updates. So what's going on in your firm? Are you bringing any new team members on board? What are some goals for your quarter that you're working through? At the end of the day, financial planning is really all about creating relationships. And so providing firm news and background is a great way to help you build these relationships with those potential clients of yours. Leverage your own content. So I mentioned this earlier. You can dig through if you already have, a library of blog posts or, podcast episodes, any other content. You can dig through and see how that's performing and always repurpose that content to use within your email newsletter. Again, showing just a snippet of your blog and then linking readers back to your website. If you're feeling creative, you can always free write. So I've heard before some financial advisors will use their email newsletter to share the podcast that they're listening to that week or the book that they're reading. Again, just providing that human touch, providing a way to continue to build and nurture the relationship that they're trying to create with these prospective clients. Experiment with video. Video is becoming more and more popular in email and on websites and in the digital marketing space just in general. This one, I would say, it might just depend on the demographic and the niche that you're working with. I know personally, I'd rather get an email that's written because I'm always on the go versus sitting down and watching a video, but that's going to differ. So if that's something that you think your audience is going to enjoy, you can always experiment just free speaking to them. Share upcoming events. So if you're hosting an upcoming webinar, if you're speaking on a panel somewhere, anything that you're out in the community, that's a great way to promote that and share that with readers. Again, it's showing that you're a trustworthy resource, you're reliable, you can provide expertise. And then lastly, provide a call to action, or what's known as a CTA. So that's really, the action that you want readers to take to continue onwards in your sales and marketing funnel. So maybe that's scheduling an intro call with you, or downloading a content offer on your website, or subscribing to your blog. You want them to, at the end of the day, email is a marketing tactic. So you want them to continue on in your funnel. And so what's the next step that you want them to take? And then lastly, with any email, especially newsletters, don't make them super long. No one has time to read a 10-minute newsletter. And so you want to keep it, short and to the point, very readable, make it scannable so that readers can, essentially read it on the go if they are running in between different appointments and other things that they have going on in their life. Okay, so the third email I'm going to talk about is nurture drip campaigns. These have a lot of different words. So you might have heard lead nurture campaigns, drip campaigns, nurture campaigns. What are they? So essentially, they're a series of emails that help guide a prospect further down your marketing funnel by providing valuable information. So again, this is a great way to increase your brand awareness, get information directly in front of potential clients' eyes, and have them reading that. So email nurture campaigns are meant to be automated. So they're meant to kind of kick off when a website visitor takes a specific action. So maybe if they schedule a call with you, do you want to send them a series of emails of what they can expect in the process when they're working with you? If they download a specific content offer you have, let's say it's on student loans, do you want to send them additional emails kind of talking about that subject? So that's really where these come in play. And when you're building them, I will caution you, nurture and drip campaign creation can take a bit of time to kind of think through the content that you want to have in there. So just take it slowly, take it one step at a time. Don't feel super rushed. And if you're seeing where you're going to have, 3 different nurture campaigns for different actions, just kind of work through one at a time. But I have found this process really easy when you're building them out to kind of start out with the topic of the email. What exactly is this email going to center around? And if you need help kind of driving this content, think about the pain points, the goals, the challenges that the people that you serve kind of run into. And then supporting content. So what content are you going to tie into this email? Are you just going to free write and give some additional information? Do you have blog posts that you can reference, other content offers, just what's going to be included? And then lastly, this is a marketing tactic. So what's the clear call to action? What's the next step that you want this potential client to take from this email series that you send to them? And then the last email that I will chat about is what's called a re-engagement email. So it is going to happen where you are going to have subscribers on your list that lose interest in your emails or your firm or your business. That happens. Every single business has that. So don't stress about that. It's okay. But what's really important here is to keep your send list clean. So if you're sending a ton of emails to people that have unsubscribed or marked your email as spam, that's going to potentially damage your sender reputation. There are some inbox providers, so like Gmail or Outlook, that will penalize people if they're having too high of unsubscribe rates. So you want to keep your list clean and up to date and just remove inactive subscribers. Really, the way you do this is a re-engagement email. So before you just automatically, remove someone from your list who has become inactive, you have kind of one last shot to reach out to them. And that's what we call a re-engagement email. So essentially you're just asking the subscriber, hey, do you still want to hear from me? Letting them know exactly why they should stay in contact with you. And then including a clear call to action that's just saying, like, keep me subscribed, keep me in the know. And that way, that they still want to stay in your email list and they still want to hear from you. And, how you determine who's inactive is totally up to you. Maybe it's someone who hasn't opened your past 10 emails, or, someone who hasn't visited your website in over 6 months. But before you clean up your list and just remove them and stop communicating with them, send them this last email just so they can stay in touch. Okay, so we've talked about some emails that are beneficial to have in your firm, but really the cold hard truth is that sending an email means nothing if folks don't open it. So the subject line is really your chance to get them to open up your email. And so you need to craft something that's compelling and attention grabbing and make sure that they actually open it. So I threw together a few best practices here when it comes to subject lines to hopefully increase your engagement and open rates. So the first one is create curiosity by having your subject line be a question. This, I'm sure you've seen it before, but something like, hey, have you seen this content offer, Lindsay? Something like that, making people curious, like, oh, what are they talking about? Limit punctuation marks so your email doesn't look like spam. There is no reason to ever send an email with 5 exclamation marks or a variety of question marks. Kind of keep it to 1 if you want to use exclamation or question marks in your email sends. I actually got an email the other day where there was an exclamation mark and a question mark, and I just didn't open the email. Something about it felt kind of spammy. So just kind of keep that in mind. Data has shown that using personalization in subject lines does increase the open rate. So that can be as simple as including someone's first name in a subject line. And that can kind of increase that curiosity even more. Keep it short and sweet. Again, remember, this is just a quick little thing, trying to get someone to open up the email. You don't want it to be a really long sentence. And then lastly, you can include preview text. So if you're not 100% sure what preview text, it's the little snippet of wording that you see after a subject line. So in the Google mobile app, the sender name will be bold, but the preview text will be unformatted after that. So I pulled an example here from the Google web app itself. So this is from Campaign Monitor. That's the sender. It's back 2021 email benchmarks are live is the subject line. And then the preview text is how do you stack up against the competition? So it's just another way to add a little bit of something so that folks will open up your email. All right, so data track and measure. You need to keep a watchful eye on your email campaigns just to make sure that they're actually performing, they're doing what you want them to do. One thing with this is that don't be in a rush to ever make changes. You want to make sure your emails have the time to perform. So give it a few sends and a few tries before you go and overhaul everything. So I'm just going to use the next few slides to just go over some of the common stats that marketers track. So the first one is the deliverability rate. So this is just monitoring the rate at which emails reach subscribers' inboxes. And you want to track this because it really ensures that, your email list is up to date. If you're sending emails and they're not getting to someone's inbox, well, those are people that you can remove from your email send list. You might see emails don't reach folks' inbox because they soft bounced or hard bounced. So if you don't know the difference between those, hard bounce means that there is a permanent reason that an email can no longer be delivered to that inbox, whether the email address no longer exists or the server has completely blocked those sends. So hard bounce contacts you can remove from your email list. And then soft bounce means there's just a temporary reason. So the email inbox might be temporarily full or the server might be temporarily down. So the hopeful thing is that they'll start receiving emails again soon. Open rate is the next one. So that's just the percentage of recipients who open the email out of those who received it. This is valuable to track because you can compare open rates across different sends and see what content is resonating with your subscribers most. If there's subject lines, that ask a question, are those getting more open rates? Kind of digging into the data and seeing if what you're sending is, having a good outcome or a worse outcome. And then one other thing to mention with this is where, if you're having that really low open rate, I mentioned earlier how some inbox providers can, essentially not penalize you, but they may be more apt to send those emails to spam. So just watching that open rate and making sure that it's not getting too low and that the content you're sending matters. Click-through rate. So this is a more clearer picture, you may have heard before click rate. So click rate is the percentage of people who clicked a link in your email out of those who were delivered the email. Click-through rate takes it one step further, and it's the percentage of recipients who clicked a link in your email out of those who opened the email. So it's actually looking at folks that took the step of opening the email and reading what you included. And this one's important to track because if recipients are reading your email, but they're not necessarily clicking any links in your email, they may not be interested in the content that you're sending. So just something to kind of keep a watchful eye on. Unsubscribe rate. So I mentioned earlier, it's going to happen. Folks are going to unsubscribe from your emails. That's okay. But it's an important, metric to track just for the health of your email list. So if folks are unsubscribing for your email list and you're seeing that trend upwards, why is that happening? Is the content that you're sending not beneficial at all? Just digging into kind of what's happening there. Maybe, this might be an opportunity where earlier we talked about the single opt-in versus double opt-in. So maybe you went the single opt-in route. You're noticing a lot of folks that are sending it for your email list just aren't engaged. They're unsubscribing. Maybe this is a good time to experiment with doing the double opt-in and see if that changes at all. And then the last one is conversion rate. So just as it sounds, after someone reads your email, are they converting on the call to action that you have chosen within that email campaign? So this metric will essentially help you track if your marketing tactics are working. So an example here, if you send an email offering recipients to schedule a call with you, then you'd consider anyone who scheduled that call to be a conversion. So just tracking that and making sure it works. So those are just some of the common stats, for email campaigns that most marketeers track. And I'm sure you're curious what average data looks like. So I did pull together this slide. So this is average data points across all industries. Thing to note here is that data does differ based on the industry that you are sending to or that you're in. So for example, when I was pulling together this slide, the education industry, their average was 25% for an open rate, whereas the electronics industry, their open rate was an average of 17%. So it does differ. So these are just averages across all industries. If you Google, email benchmarks and email average data, you'll find different benchmarks based on the industry that you're in or the niche that you may end up working with. But at the end of the day, keep in mind these stats are going to, depend on the health of your email list. They're also just averages. This is all going to change, no matter who you are, what your business is, and it's hard to say exactly what's the best and what's not because it's just going to depend. So that's why averages exist. All right. So the next one's A/B testing. So when you're starting out with email marketing, it's really easy to rely on guesswork to understand what works and what doesn't. But there's actually a tactic that you can take if you want to dig in and kind of figure out what's working or not. And that's called an A/B test. So essentially what an A/B test is you're taking identical emails and you're changing just one thing and you're sending both of them out kind of split across your send list and seeing if one performs better. It's really important here to note is to only test one thing at a time. You don't want to go and change 5 different things in your email and then have it perform 10 times better than the other email and not know, okay, what actually changed that. So just change one thing at a time. And if you're wondering, what are some things I can A/B test? Well, subject lines, that's usually a big one. If you want to test if a question works better or including someone's first name works better, it's a great thing to test. You can test the time and day that you send emails if you want to see if, afternoon performs better than morning. That's a way you can test that. Call to action copy. So, if you are pushing out a piece of content that you want readers to download, if you say download for free or download now, do one of those call to actions perform better. And you can even take this one step further, best practices and to include like what's called a call to action button that's actually colored and they can click on it. Maybe that works, but do you want to see if just simple hyperlink text works? You can test that as well. And then newsletters with images or without, I tend to prefer newsletters with images as long as they're relevant. But if you want to test sending an email with very minimal images, you can use an A/B test to do that. So just a sampling, and this is just a tool to have in your marketing toolbox, as you kind of get underway if you want to start experimenting. All right, so we'll just wrap up these last few slides with email best practices as you start implementing email marketing within your firm. So the first one is avoid the no reply sender name. You always want to send an email that if readers read through your email and they want to reply back to you, you want to get that email. So make sure it's coming from your email, or if you have a firm email, that it's coming directly from there so that you can get in touch. Include social media links. So you can encourage subscribers to connect with you on different platforms. So, if you have a LinkedIn page, Twitter profile, Facebook page, including links to that. Again, folks might get on your email list, and then maybe Facebook, maybe they spend all their evenings on Facebook. So you want them to get the content that you're pushing on Facebook as well. So encourage them to connect with you elsewhere. Send test emails or multiple before hitting send. So you want to make sure that everything looks as it should, and that there's not typos or grammatical errors. So just kind of running through that with a fine-tooth comb a variety of times. A lot of the email service providers out there will actually have a preview feature so that you can see exactly what an email will look like, in a desktop client versus on a mobile device, which is really helpful. Include relevant images. So if you do go the route of including images within your emails, make sure they're relevant. Make sure it's not something completely out of the blue that's going to make no sense to the content that's in that email. And then also, always make sure you use alt text on images. So alt text is essentially, written copy that will appear if an image doesn't render correctly, whether that's on a web page or in an email. And what's really nice with that is that there are some email clients, specifically on phones, that won't download those images. And so it gives the reader just an idea of what image was there so that they have the full picture. And then lastly, don't abuse trust. Someone has trusted you with their email address. Don't abuse it by flooding a subscriber's inbox with too many emails or sending emails that aren't relevant to them. You don't want to risk having subscribers unsubscribe, or even worse, report your email as spam. So keep it trustworthy. And don't be afraid to experiment. How are subscribers reacting to your emails? If you have prospective clients that become clients, you can ask them, hey, was there anything in my email campaigns prior to becoming a client that really resonated with you, and take that back as you kind of build out new campaigns or make adjustments. But always remember, even if you experiment, that at the end of the day, authentic, useful personalization is key in your email campaigns, and making sure that you're always sending with a purpose. And that is it for the presentation. So we'll have Isabel come back on and go into some questions.
Thank you, Lindsay. This was so good. I'll admit that I've worked closely with you and your team before, so I thought I had an idea about what marketing was, but I found myself nodding along and so engaged, and I love how you broke it down for us. So thank you so much for that. And I know personally from talking to hundreds of members over the years that marketing is one of the areas that people can feel very shy about, because this is not their area of expertise. Maybe they think they're not good at it, but as a solopreneur, they have to wear the hat of marketer as well. So really appreciate you breaking it all down for us today. And we've gotten a couple of questions through our chat. So feel free, folks, to jump in there. And should you have any more, type them out. We also had a couple of questions submitted before our presentation, and so we'll try to get through as many as possible. The first question we had is, I think this refers to a slide, valid address as in email address or physical address. Does that?
Yeah. Yeah. So the CAN spam regulations, so physical address. So you'll notice in different email campaigns, and you can jump into your inbox later today, but if you scroll down, you'll always see the business addresses included within there.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Hopefully that answered your question, and go ahead and jump back in Q&A if it doesn't, or you'd like her to elaborate on anything. What are your thoughts on buying lists?
Yeah, so you can definitely buy an email list. It's not necessarily best practice, so they have the potential to be ineffective because you may risk sending a bunch of emails to emails that aren't necessarily valid, or they're not emails. Let's see, they're not people that have gone to your website and actually signed up to receive those emails. So they might not be interested in the content that you're necessarily pushing. So it's something you can experiment with. The compliance team did mention to me when I was chatting with them earlier about those slides that you can buy an email list from a compliance standpoint. That's okay. But just making sure that you have that list handy in the future, should you get audited as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, keep track of everything just in case of an audit. I've heard that advice from the compliance team before.
Yes.
And another compliance question actually popped up regarding advertising. Does this mean copying blog posts attached to emails in a folder, or just the emails sent?
So I believe it's just the email sent. I'm not a compliance consultant, but the compliance team did say like any email that you send, just putting that into a folder. And so if you are linking to a blog post from there, a regulator will be able to kind of follow that track. So good question for the compliance team, but based on what they told me, just keeping that email handy.
Yeah, definitely. Then that's when I get questions like that from members, I defer to the compliance experts here at XYPN. Should anyone become a member, as Lindsay mentioned, they host office hours, they host their own internal webinars. They've got a lot of support for whatever you need, and know all about compliance regarding marketing as well.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so I know you mentioned how often people should be sending out content, but is there a specific time of day or day of the week that is proven to have more click-throughs or open rates?
Yeah. So that's a good question. It changes is the answer with that. So I was on a webinar a few weeks ago, actually, and they said historically Tuesdays have been the best day to send emails. However, in 2020, with the pandemic, they saw Mondays and Fridays were kind of those days where open rates increased. So there's not necessarily a clear answer there, and it honestly might change based on who you're communicating with, the niche that you're working with, all of that. So again, something where that A/B test comes into play. As far as send times, I've generally heard late morning tends to be kind of the best practice. And you'll initially see kind of a lot of opens and clicks, and then that might kind of die down a little bit. And then that evening, when folks have wrapped up their workday and they're going back through their inbox, you might see that kind of tick up again. You can A/B test that and see if late morning send or afternoon works better. And kind of like I mentioned, this data does differ for everyone based on, who you're communicating with. So that's why averages and best practices do exist. But that's not to say that that's the, best opportunity for your firm itself. And that's really where that experimentation comes into play.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Well, how often would you say, or how much time in a week or in a month are advisors spending on marketing and email marketing in particular?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've heard varying things. Isabel, you might know a little better too, but I remember when I was on the sales team, kind of the average we would say would be about like 10 to 20 hours a month on kind of all marketing. That's including website, email, social media. That was kind of what I always heard as the best kind of time frame.
Yeah, I would say that matches up with what I've heard from members. Like you referenced, there is a lot of experimentation earlier on in the process, but then you can schedule things out. And also, once you kind of have that log of blog posts, then you have your next couple of emails ready to go. Do you have a platform to suggest of how to schedule when it comes to marketing?
Yeah, so kind of those email service providers, those examples I gave, that's kind of the best place to start. And if you do join the network, members collaborate in the forums on what they're using and might have some good suggestions as well. Here at XYPN, we use HubSpot. That's a pretty robust system, though. If you're kind of starting out, that's can get very much in the weeds. So starting out with something like MailerLite, Active Campaign, MailChimp, just kind of starting there, getting the basics down. And then as your firm grows, you can always switch it up.
Yeah. And I think I've heard of like Hootsuite for scheduling out social media posts. So there's got to be other
Yep.
ones out there.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, definitely once you figure out what works, or even as you're experimenting, my recommendation is automate things where you can. And if you're fancy, use a tool like Zapier to just make your life easier.
Yes. And I've heard folks creating a content calendar. So using like in December of 2020, sitting down and thinking out exactly what 2021 is going to look like. I've even heard some members where they'll make sure the content they send each month kind of is on a specific topic. So there's a lot of different, techniques and things that you can try.
Definitely. I like that idea of a content calendar. Then you're never wondering what your next blog post or email is going to be about. So someone had a question about social media. Would you create separate Instagram and Facebook profiles for business only and separate them from your personal?
I think best practice is yes. From what I've heard, is to kind of just keep it separate. So that way, too, at the end of the day, when you do get audited, auditors are going to want to look at everything. So that way you have just that Instagram profile or Facebook page that is just related to business and they're not digging through all your personal stuff either.
Mhm. Do you have a recommendation for the best social media platform to be on?
It's a good question. My go-to response with this is it depends who you're working with. So obviously younger generations are more active on Instagram. Older generations may be more active on Facebook. So this is a good place to experiment. This is also a really good place where I mentioned earlier, those ideal client avatars. So you might figure out that those client avatars, so the dentist graduating school, maybe they're more active on Instagram, and the dentist who has his own business is more active on Facebook because they want a Facebook business page. And so you can even take that a step further and whatever you're sending out to those different social media platforms, catering the message directly to those client avatars based on who you think is your audience there. So it depends. It really will come down to, this can also be a question you ask when you do have new clients come on board, like, hey, where are you active on different social media platforms? So you can try to nail down exactly where those demographics are hanging out.
Yeah, I really like that answer. And bringing it back to the client avatar as well. Really think about who you're speaking to and where they are at. What's your favorite subject line of all time?
That's a good one. I have seen a lot. The one coming to mind recently, there's a brand, I think it's Olipop. I might be saying that completely wrong, but they're a healthy soda alternative. And I recently signed up for their email list. And last week I got an email that said, like, meet our flavors. And the preview text said, and then find the one that fits best for you, something along those lines. And I instantly opened the email because I'm like, meet the flavor, like what are the flavors of this soda? So that's the one coming to mind because it's recent and it worked. So I guess the kind of tying on to that is that if you get an email that has a subject line that really resonates with you, save that in an idea file so that when you are writing those subject lines, you have something to go and refer back to and get a little bit of inspiration.
Yeah, really good idea. And I like that it was personal. Like, what did you say? What flavor resonates the best with you? And I was like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep, exactly. The personalization definitely works. Like I said, there's data that says that. I know I fall for that. If the subject line has Lindsay in the subject line, I'm more apt to open that email because it instantly feels more personalized.
Definitely. Um, what are the most important features to look for in an email marketing platform?
Yeah. So, making sure that you can track the data, that's a big thing. So we went through all those data points. You can manually track that, but that would be a nightmare. A lot of those email service providers, give you that data. But a lot of it comes down to cost. There's a lot of different platforms out there. And so kind of looking at your budget and choosing which one works best for you based on the budget that you have. There's some that will be based on number of subscribers. And I also think if you can find a platform that has those templated emails already created that you can kind of plug and play with, that's going to make things a lot easier than having to create, say, an email newsletter completely from scratch.
Yeah, this actually ties into another question that someone had. Are there other low cost marketing tools out there that you would suggest? Anything come to mind, sort of as people are just getting their marketing plan in place, obviously trying to save some money somewhere?
Yeah, there's a lot out there. The big one that comes to mind for me, and Isabel, you might have another suggestion too, but Calendly. So that's a way for folks to schedule a call with you. I think that's a great marketing prospecting tool. Rather than having to email back and forth to get someone on your calendar, they can just simply click a link, schedule a call with you, or schedule a meeting and not have to go back and forth. So I think that's going to keep business running smoothly. And then using a software like that, really easy to include a call to action in your email saying schedule a call with me. Folks don't have to go back and forth with you. So there's a lot out there. I know we have blog posts with kind of free marketing tools. So you can really get in the weeds.
Yeah, another a recent favorite of mine is Loom. And so you can video record your screen and yourself talking and send it to a client or a prospect. And I use the free version, so I'm not paying anything. And I can't imagine that the premium version is that much, but don't quote me on that. Um, Gosh, okay, so we're going to keep the conversation going. I have a couple more questions, but before we dive into those, I do want to mention that next month we're going to be talking about marketing again with some of Lindsay's teammates. We've got our brand director, our director of brand communications and our marketing system administrator, and they're going to be going over 30 top marketing hacks in 30 minutes. So be sure to sign up for that. And we would love to know what you thought about this webinar. So go ahead and fill out the survey that we're dropping in the chat right now. We just want to know if these are valuable for you, what kind of content you'd like to see in the future. So definitely give us some feedback there. But Lindsay, we've got just 4 more minutes and I want to get through some of these great questions. One person asked, is there a service available for someone to look at emails and have them critiqued?
So not internally at XYPN. I'm sure there may be some solutions out there. Not familiar off the top of my head, but a resource that might be helpful. There is a company called Really Good Emails. That's exactly what the name of their company is. And they essentially have examples of really good emails all on their website. So that might be a good place to go for inspiration and kind of see if you're matching up there. So I'm sure there's solutions out there, just none that are coming top to mind right now.
Yeah. Something that I would say, this isn't an expert by any means, but if you have a peer group, like a mastermind group or a study group is another word for them, have them look at your emails. And if you know someone who is your ideal client avatar that Lindsay mentioned, send it to them, like if they're a friend or family member you're particularly close with, and ask for their honest feedback. I've suggested that to people before.
Totally. I totally agree with that, especially when it comes to sending those test emails before you hit send. If you have a family member or a friend or anyone that you can send it to so that they can look at it, that's always helpful. Sometimes our eyes will read over words so many times that we don't even see that they're misspelled or that there's a typo, and that's something that someone else will pick up on. So really nice if you have someone that you can kind of just send those emails to.
Definitely. Um, who are some of your favorite marketers within the XYPN community? Does anyone come top of mind?
That's a good question. Gosh, I'd have to think about that a little bit.
Don't worry, we can circle back or maybe include it in our follow-up email. I just, with the community, the way it's built, and how people just lean into it. I love coming back to who's doing something that you want to do. What inspiration can you draw from them?
Totally.
Yeah, what thoughts on what is your view on using email versus Facebook ads? Ooh, that's a good question.
Oh, that is a good question. Not super familiar with Facebook ads, I'll be honest there. So again, this kind of ties to the beginning piece is that email is it's customized to whoever you're sending it to. So you're directing that message to them. You can personalize it and then it's going to show up in their inbox. So it's kind of just going back. These are two completely different avenues when it comes to marketing, but they're both extremely important. And so, I would definitely utilize both within your firm. But email marketing, it's funny, some people think like email has outgrown itself as Facebook and Instagram and Twitter have come to life, but it's still just as important. We're in our email every day, whether that's our business email or personal email, it's on our phone. So it's important to have a presence there as well.
Definitely. And it sounds like testing and experimentation is the way to go. Well, this has been wonderful, Lindsay. Thank you so much for your time, your expertise. I learned a lot. I hope the folks on this call did. We are going to be sending out a follow-up email, so you'll have all of this wonderful information and the resources that we've included. So be sure to open that up and let us know what you thought of today's webinar. Thanks, everyone. Have a good Wednesday.
Thank you.